Yo, what's happening, people? Long time, but it's Kanza here, and today I'm going to be doing a Lars guide. So this is just literally, this video is going to be on what buttons you should be using in neutral. So it's kind of just an overview of, not really of what changed, but what you should be doing as a Lars player, and just going to highlight a few basic things that people can use as a knowledge check for, you know, Lars, as if the person that they're fighting against doesn't know what you're doing, or something that your opponent is testing you if you're like stealing frame data or stealing frames when you shouldn't be. So yeah, I'm gonna get into this now, but yeah, just want to say a big thank you to guys for all the support. We've almost hit 900 subscribers and we're very close to 1,000, so hopefully we can get that by the end of the year. That'd be sick. But yeah, let's do it. So first thing I want to talk about is Lars's mids. So I will talk about what moves are good, what moves you generally want to be using when you're playing him, like aggressively when you're rushing the opponent down, and then I'll talk about the type of like different play styles that you can have when you're playing Lars. Now I'd say there's a maximum of 3 viable approaches to playing Lars right now in the state of the game. Two of them are very viable, one of them isn't, in my opinion, but I will cover that anyway. But yeah, so first of all, really basic, but what I want to talk about is his down forward 1. This is a really good button, and it's one of his best mids in my opinion. It's very good for checking your opponent, and if you actually look on hit, you're +5. So in my opinion, that's a very good button for Lars, and I'd recommend people using this a lot. So you're +5, then you can go to stuff like back 1, and as you can see, back 1, it's got a startup of 15 frames, right? 15-17 frames. So if you land down forward 1 on hit, you're +5. So this is coming out at 10 frames straight away afterwards. So if your opponent mashes buttons, so I'm gonna have it record and do that. So back 1 straight away, so that's gonna be on hit. So I'm gonna, when I get hit, I'm gonna start pressing like jabs and all that stuff, right? So here we go. See, counter hit, knockdown. So that is really good. Obviously the jab traded, but the reward is like what you get afterwards. So let me try and down 2, knockdown, standing 4, knockdown, standing 3, knockdown. Like there's legit nothing I can do. I even pressed up forward 3 there. I got whacked. So that I know it's really basic, but it's just the small things like that when you're playing Lars kind of like take him from being an average, like kind of like an okay character, to a really good one. When you have frame traps like that just at the back of your hand, it's really good, especially at the wall. So I'll do it again. So if you catch someone trying to like step, because that's what people do when their back's against the wall, they want to get out, right? Very few players will actually stand at the wall and hold it. So let me show you again. Here we go. So wall splat. Did you see that? Me trying to like press buttons when I shouldn't be, even panicking with like up forward 3, wall splat. And then what would happen is Lars would then get his wall combo. Probably not optimal, but you can get down forward 1 there, but I'll cover that later. But yeah, bam, bam, bam. So that's like, if I did it properly, you would have lost about 60 HP, not including the rest of it, but just from that. And that's a lot of health gone just because you tried to move. Right, here we go. So let me show you that again. Oh, and why it's not playing? Why is it not playing? Oh, okay, here we go. Bam, bam, bam. So yeah, in total, so the down forward 1, 14 damage. Oh, so 14 damage, and then the back 1. So you've lost like 70 health, roughly. Maybe even more from that sequence at the wall. And then Lars gets more Oki just from those 2 moves, which is really good in my opinion. So that's what you'll see if you guys ever watch me play, or if I stream it. which I haven't been doing recently, but if you do see me stream it, I will be doing like a lot of down forward one pokes and then fishing out back ones, because especially at the wall, as I just said, it's really good for wall splats now that this on counter hit wall splats, etc. So that's really good. And then in the open, back one knocks down. And then what will happen there is if you get a counter hit back one, you're plus 14, your opponent's knocked down. What you can do is then go into silent entry. I believe it's a silent entry, or is it dynamic? It's one of them. It's one of them. Let me check real quick. Right, silent entry. No, it's dynamic. It's dynamic, my bad. So then you can go to dynamic. I always get confused by the names, but you can go into dynamic and then do that, right? So the reason why I'd recommend doing that is because you then get a mix up on wake up. So let's say the opponent there, what did it do? It ground techniques, stand up, wake up, low kick, right? So if your opponent, after getting hit by back one, wakes up with a low kick, what you can do in that situation, which is why this is really good, is you can do back one into dynamic entry 2, counter hit, right? So look, bang. So obviously this is theory fighting to some extent, but this will work in a match simply because it's your Oki. These are your options that you can do. So as I said, you can go bam, bam, knockdown, bang. So if they've pressed buttons or something, you get a follow-up, etc. And then you can do your wall combo, etc. Whatever you want to do after that. So that's why back one is a really good move, in my opinion. Simply because of that, it also tracks it homes. So if people are stepping you, etc., this will catch them, and then you get your follow-up. And I think this covers most options. I'll do wake up mid kick. Yeah. Wake up recovery kick. Yeah. Okay. And I'll just do spring kick just for balance. Yeah. So did it even try and spring kick? What was that? 1 second. Okay, never mind. Maybe you can't spring kick if you're face down. You have to be backwards. But yeah. So as I said, his really good moves are his down forward one is a very good poke, and his back one. And the back one on hit, which you may land a couple times in the match, just randomly like that, you're plus 4. So you're actually okay to throw out another one, which is what I normally do, just to kind of check people and keep them in space, is to just do that. Because there's no harm in doing this. It's safe on block. You're only -9, and if you do get the counter hit on the second one, if they're mashing, then you get the follow-up. As I said, that you can go in. You don't have to just do this. You can do, you know, dynamic entry 3, 4. You can set that up, which is pretty good if you're close to the wall. But the start up is pretty slow, so you may get hit by, as I said, like their wake up kick. So it's always safe to do dynamic entry 2. But yeah, back 4 on hit, you're plus 4, which is really good. And that's something that I would recommend you doing. Another good move that Lars has from his mids is his down back 2-1. So this is this attack. This leaves you at plus 6. So the same situation with his down back 1. Down forward 1, which is his jab, like this, is you can do the same thing with back 1. So you can do down back 2-1 into back 1, and it will repeat the same situation. Like that, okay? So there you go, same situation. So really and truly what you want to be doing with Lars, as I said, is you want to be repeating those two sequences. So like down forward 1, back 1, down back 2-1, back 1. And you don't have to rinse and repeat that, but you can utilize that more and more as part of your mix-up. Because obviously people will start getting upset when you see that they start to not upset, but when you see that they start to respect what you're doing in terms of his back 1, and fishing for counter hits, and then you get your setup into that or whatever low you want to do, right? They're gonna start not pressing buttons when they shouldn't be, right? And that's when you can kind of mix up with lows and all that stuff, but I'll get into that later. So down back 2-1, the reason why this is good, I said plus 6, you can then get this to come out, and I think this will then come out at something like 9 frames or something silly like that, right? So I think that's really, really good. Now, another good thing about down back 2-1, if you just press down back 2, you're plus 3, but then if you go into stance right after it like this, on hit, you're plus 6. Okay? So this is really good. Because then you get your stance mix-ups, and this is where Lars kind of like prospers, in my opinion. When he's in these stances, silent entry, dynamic entry, that's where his best moves are, in my opinion, for like rushing people down, because that's kind of where they're locked behind. So down back 2-1 forward into that is really good. So yeah, I think that's very good in terms of just like opening people up. So what you can do then is do that into down forward 1, which is the silent entry down forward 1. The reason why this is good is because if your opponent presses after getting hit, I believe, yeah. So what? Let me record it for you guys so you guys can see the example. Okay, cool. See, I press jab, literally press jab. That's all I did. Got hit. Can't do anything. Can't even up forward 3. Counter hit. So on hit, that is very scary. That is very scary. So that's why I think, as I said, that's down back 2 on hit is is really good. So what you can do, if you see that your opponent starts after a couple times, even if they get hit by this, you're +8. So if they get hit by that and it's not counter hit, it's still your turn. So what I would suggest you do there, which is what I normally do, is I normally go for a back 1 or I go for back 4. So I'll show you what happens. So obviously if they press, they get hit, but if they get counter hit after being hit by this move here, no, sorry, if they get hit by this and then they press straight after that when you're +8, this is what will happen if you press back 4, which I think is really good. So bang, back 4. Remember, you're +8. Now let me show you guys. So back 4 comes out at 15 frames. You being +8 means that this is coming out way before 10 frames, right? So regardless of what button they press, similar situation, these are frame tight, what's the word, frame traps. They're gonna get hit, excluding 2Ds with the EX DPs, but yeah. So here we go. So I get hit, try to press, bang, 55. So the total damage of that was 75 damage I just lost because I pressed buttons. Try to get out, yikes, 75 damage from that one sequence. So as I said, that's really good. Down back 2 allows you to kind of open up your opponent, because it's got a good range as well. So I'll backdash about here-ish. Down back 2-1, the last bit hits, +6. So even if the first bit hits, you're okay to kind of like throw it out because it's safe. I'll do it again. You're safe from blocking -8. So you can kind of, that's like your far range kind of like getting poked tool. And as I said, if you do land it, you're +6. Even just the last bit, +6, which is sick. So yeah. What will happen then, as I said, when you land this, you know what happens after that. But what you can start doing on hit is going for a mix-up. So this, and then you can go for the low where you're +6. Now, obviously the low, you can get low parried, but don't worry about that. The risk reward for this is it far outweighs the risk than the reward. No, sorry. The risk reward for this, the reward outweighs the risk. So it's okay if you get low parried in some situations. I'd rather just take the risk just for this specific move because the reward that you get is much better. So basically, if I land it, so as you saw here, I'm +6, right? So on hit, bang, +6. So it's still your turn. Now the key thing here is that since you're still in crouch and you're +6, it leaves you in crouch state if you hold down. I think, yeah. So if you hold down, you're still in crouch state. You're +6. Now another mid that Lars has recently just got is his full crouch down forward 2, which is this move here. Now this is a counter hit launcher, as you've seen, and it comes out at 15 frames. So you being +6 means, whoops, my bad. You being +6 means that this is coming out, as I said, 15 to 16 frames. It's coming out at like 10 frames or 9 frames. Like it's coming out rapid, right? So what will happen is, if your opponent mashes buttons after getting hit, they're gonna get launched. So bang, like that, okay? press, bang, count it. Do it again. Up 4-3, bang. Nothing works. Like, they have to hold it. See? I tried to orbital there, so I got floated. But any other button, they get launched. Now, as I briefly showed you as well, another good thing about that low is that on block. So let me let the opponent block it. Oh my gosh, my bad. Sorry guys. So guard all. Here we go. You're only -12, so that's not too bad. That's actually okay, in my opinion. That's good. But if you get a counter hit for using this, you actually get a combo, which is insane. 81 damage roughly. So that's sick. So as I said, you're okay. Those are some of his like best moves. As I said, his lows, they're more risky, the other ones that he has, but that is really good, especially because you can get to that low off of a mid, which is sick in my opinion, right? So yeah, and that's all stems from his down back too, as I said, this move here. So another thing you can do with this in this stance on hit, you can go into his new move, which is 3+4, and you're only -6. Now the good thing about this is that, let me show you, at the wall, what will happen is if you land that last bit, it's a free wall splat, yeah, and you're safe on block, as I said. So you're -6, so this is okay to throw out at the wall. People will start to duck you, and that's why it's good to throw that out, especially in like situations where you're by the wall, because then you can kind of mix it up. And it's okay to go for that. As I said, it's safe, it's a free wall splat, so you don't have to do anything too risky like that where you're -10. Obviously it's got a little bit of pushback, but do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of meh. And the only good thing about this is that it wall bounces, etc. But I'd rather go for this, in all honesty, especially if I've landed down at 2 on hit. I'd rather take my chances with that and go for that move. So yeah, that's pretty good. Another good move that he has from that stance, which you can get to from down back 2 on hit, is 3. Obviously this is -14, so you have to be a bit more careful with this. Some characters can launch you, like Brian does jet upper, etc. So keep that in mind. But what this is, it does crush some moves. I've seen it myself. But the good thing about it is that it launches people that are in crouch, right? So if they make the wrong read, because obviously this move here, you're forcing your opponent to like kind of like clump down, and then you're going to start using this move here where you're still plus. Eventually they're going to start hard crouching you, so you can kind of take the risk for it, but I wouldn't really recommend it too much. So let me show you what would typically happen. So bam, bam. Okay, so say your opponent gets hit, they're trying to low parry or something, or they're trying to duck the low that's going to come out, they get launched by that. So that's just something to keep in mind, but I wouldn't recommend doing that too much. The reason why I would recommend using the new move, which is mainly used for wall carry, is that it actually crushes lows. So I'll show you now. See, I did down back 4 there. Here we go. The down back 4. Hold on. Let me see if I can get a better example. Okay, that's alright. There we go. Yeah, so this actually said punish there, because this actually crushes lows for some reason, and I'm not sure why, but it depends how you. There you go. So for some reason, Arts Bamco, it actually crushes lows. That's why it's good, especially at the wall. If you know someone's gonna throw out like a sucker kick or something crazy like that, this move, it actually has the tendency to crush lows, which is really, really good for Lars. So you don't have to like constantly throw out orbitals and do all of that nonsense, but you can kind of like make your opponent guess. And on here, you're +11. Obviously it's got a bit of pushback, but being +11 there is a bit mad, because then you can obviously, you've got range to play around with. You can back one, you can go for different attacks and other moves that Lars has, which is really good in my opinion. So what you could typically do, which I'll get into now, is one of his other really good mids, is his forward 1+2, which is this elbow here. Leaves you +14. You can dash back in for another mix up, and on counter hit, you actually get a combo, which is pretty good. So yeah, so you get a follow-up from that. Sorry, my phone's going off the handles. But yeah, you get a combo from that. So typically, as I said, with the situation I just showed you, with the with his new move, this. Whoops, my bad. With his new move, like that. So let me show you guys. So if I press buttons after getting hit by this, bang. So you have to kind of respect that as well. Bang, and then Lars can dash back in for a combo, or it might be a bit difficult to try and get that. There you go. So I tried to go for a low sweep there, but bang, and then Lars gets a combo. So that elbow is really good, and something that you Lars players should actually be using a lot more. The only weakness that it has, I think, is that you can step it pretty well. So alright, so let me try that. Yeah, it's quite linear. Ooh. It's gonna be hard to step it on reaction. Hold on. So there we go. So I'll watch out for the jab first. There you go. So as you see there, like, it's really steppable. So you have to kind of like choose where you throw it out. Otherwise, you get bodied for doing that, right? Get a full combo in the back, so you have to be really careful about how you go about doing that. But that's one of his best mids, in my opinion, simply because it's safe on block now, especially at close range. Before he was punishable, now you're -9. This is really good. You're +14 on hit. You can recreate the same scenario that I talked about earlier, where if your opponent gets up, ooh, yeah, so you can kind of recreate the same scenario here, and then go for something like that. You're -7, so you haven't put yourself in a bad situation. You actually gone for like a setup. So if they've started mashing or doing some craziness, you can get something for that. So that's good. Now another mid that I want to talk about is his down 2, which is this. This is good. You're +8. So when you do this, if you hold down on hit, it leaves you in full crouch. Now, the reason why this is good is that because when you've done that, then you can go for other mid, which is full crouch down forward 2, which is that. So I'll show you an example. So if the opponent gets hit, you can go for that, right? And since you're +8, it comes out rapid. Like there's nothing that they can do. I'll even try an orbital this time. Last time we did it, I was floated. This time, like, it's just a straight. It's just you just get banged in the chest. You gotta hold that. But yeah, it's sick. Down 2 is really good, providing you land it on hit. On block, you're still safe. So if I have the opponent block, you're 0, which is good. But I'd recommend just blocking afterwards, just in case your opponent does anything, so you can kind of react to it. But yeah, on hit, being +8 is really good. So this move is sick. It's one of his best mids, in my opinion. But this is just mainly for like poking and stuff like that. All of the mids that I've showcased so far. And another mid that I want to talk about, which I think is really good, is his well, not really mid, but it's his jab string. So 1-1-1. So yeah, yeah, his 1-1-1, they changed it. So this is really good because what I've been doing is I've been checking people like this. So 1-1, you're -8. So when Lars is like this, he's doing the, you know, Michael Jackson, the he's doing all that. When he's doing that, yeah, don't throw out the last bit unless you're sure when the second hit lands, I think the last hit is guaranteed. So I'll test this. Let me see. Is there a random guard? There is. Sick. Cool. So cool. Yeah. So when the second hit lands, you can kind of hit confirm it like that. But if the first hit, see, so that's what you kind of want to be doing it like that. Obviously, it wall spats as well, which is good. But this is good practice if you play Lars. When you see the second hit land, you want to throw it out, not like that. Like that. Boom. Block. See, so that's something when you're playing Lars. I think some people should like train that type of like method for hit confirming, because I think that's really, really good. This move is underused a lot. I rarely see Lars players use this, but I think it's really good, especially if you can hit confirm it. But yeah, I think that's a really, really good move that Lars has, and I would recommend a lot of people like coming to terms with using it more. Another mid that Lars has is his down forward 2-1, which they've recently changed the properties, so it's mid now, so people can't duck it, and it's also -14 on block, so characters like Brian, etc. can launch it. So what I would recommend you doing is, what I do with Lars is, well, the new playstyle that I've kind of like adopted is more around forcing my opponent to make mistakes rather than me running in like a headless chicken. So what I typically do is I'll do a couple jabs, see what their reaction is, or down back 2-1 or down back 2, like this, right? And pause. So what I've noticed is that when I've done that, people immediately, like down back 2, even if it's on hit, people just dash in and like, I need to hit him. So what you can do is jab, wait, or jab, back dash, and then when they've pressed the button, arc blast, or jab, wait, down back 2-1. Or bait them so they come in, bam, bam. So this is good because it crushes a lot. It's got good tracking as well, and it's good for like, if you know, especially when you're fighting people like Mishimas and stuff, when you know that they're gonna dash in and do all that stuff, you can kind of catch them with this as well, which is really good. And I would recommend using this a lot because this move is actually sick. It's one of his best mids. Although it is -14, it's still sick. It's still a really good move. But I would prefer, which I sometimes resort to, I'd rather throw out Art Blast than this, because especially against some characters, your launch, right? It's because -14, so you can get launched. So it's better to throw out Art Blast versus some characters rather than throwing out down back 2-1. Obviously down back 2-1, you can kind of you can fish with the elbow like this, which is fine, like that. But yeah, you're still liable to accidentally throw out the extension and get hit. But it's kind of more preference wise. The more optimal thing, as I said, would just be kind of check. It's kind of hard to confirm that a bit more, but the more optimal thing would be to kind of check with this and then throw it out. But against some characters, it's okay to throw out this. If their 13 frame punishment's pretty bad, this is okay to kind of like jab check, sidestep, art blast, stuff like that. That's fine. So let me show you. So if I'll try and replicate a situation here, like that. All right, let me try this. So if they respond with a jab, let me see this, like that, punish. Okay. So if they try and down forward 1 you after doing jabs, you can catch them with an art blast. So let me try and do like that. All right. It's a bit scuffed, but punish. Okay. So they try to jab, or they try and do something. So that's what you want to be doing. It's trying to like catch them out for pressing buttons. But it's all about spacing as well with Lars. Good spacing on Lars is scary because he's got really good buttons like that. So you can kind of start doing that. That actually crushed the down forward 1 counter hit, which is insane. Yeah, so stuff like that is really good with Lars. So yeah, it's the same with his down forward 2-1. So let me see this. So, oh my gosh, what was that? Right. All right, so I'm gonna do forward like that. Like that, okay. So I'll do it. This is a rough example, but I'll show you. Cool. So you can kind of like crush people's buttons with this. So that's what you want to be doing. If you recognize someone's doing stuff like that, you can kind of crush their button, but you need good timing. Good timing. Know when they're minus, like that. If they're stealing frames, you can kind of throw out, bam, bam. Okay. Because it's not their turn. So that's what you want to be doing. It's like fishing for empty moments, empty gaps where you can kind of get your button in and just check, even if it's just the first bit. So I'll show you now. So block. So you can kind of check like that. You're +3. It's okay. You can still press afterwards. Back 1. Stuff like that, right? So then here's an example. Back 1, back 4. So you can kind of like rinse and repeat some options to some extent. So yeah, that's about it for Lars' good mids and what moves to kind of like play around. Now I want to talk about his lows. Now his lows are good. Some of them are mediocre, some of them are really good. So his best low, in my opinion, in my honest opinion, is his down back 4. Even though it is launch on block, so this move here. Whoa, so I keep doing that, sorry guys. Down back 4. You're minus 26, so you're getting launched regardless. But the good thing about this move is that you're plus 5 on hit. Being plus 5 and in full crouch afterwards is crazy, because then you get a pretty much guaranteed full crouch down forward 2, and then this will always counter it. If they're pressing buttons, this will always counter it, and I assure you that. So bang, like that. Okay, so I'm gonna start mashing afterwards. Bang, counter it. I'll try and dare. Got hit. Okay, so that is, in my opinion, one of his best lows. On counter hit, he gets a combo, so you can kind of like space it out and go for it, which is pretty good, like that. And then you can go for a full combo and do what you want, which is pretty sick. And yeah, this is just a good move. Now it can be stepped quite well if your opponent's looking for it, but it's very rare that this happens. So I'll show you now. So here we go. So I think he stepped it right. There you go. Okay. Might be left actually. Hold on. Jab. So yeah, it's got good. The tracking on it's decent. Alright. Yeah, it's decent. So you can kind of like step and duck it. Like that. So step duck. And then you get your launch for it. So that's one thing you have to kind of like be careful of when playing Lars. It's just like people will start stepping and ducking right for some of his lows and stuff like that. So you got to keep that in mind. Now another good low Lars has is forward 4-3, which is this. This is sick. You're plus 3. Only problem is it's launch on block. So I wouldn't recommend rinse and then using that move too much, but it is good. And another good low Lars has, which is similar to Hwoarang's down 3-4, but it's not as good, is down back 1-3. This is natural hit, so you'll get both hits from just doing that. Obviously you see it out on -1, but if you hold down, you're +1. So him going into crouch stance, he's +1. When he does that little when he does that, yeah, he's +1. But yeah, he's +1 there, so that's decent. So then you can kind of go for like while standing 4, etc. So that'll come out at 10 frames, I think. So that's good. And then also he's got down 1+2, which is good. You're +9. And it's a knockdown, hard knockdown, which is sick. And then he's got full crouch down for 1+2, which leaves you at +1 again. So yeah, those are his best lows. Now I would not recommend anyone for any reason to use forward 3+4. I use it sometimes with 0. You don't really get much reward for this. Obviously the damage is nice, but it's very telegraphed. He screams, he says shoot, whatever. But yeah, you're launch on block, so I wouldn't recommend using this. Obviously 26 damage, but I'd rather go for down back 4. Simply because you're +5 or one of these lows or this. Yeah, this is much better to go for. Your +1 is 2 less damage, so that's just something I'd recommend doing. But yeah, that's about it for his lows. Now his mids, as I said before, I did cover all of them except while standing 2. So this one here, this is good because you're +3 on hit and you get the extension like that. It being -12 now is really good. I don't know, well, I think it's always been -12, but it being -12 is kind of scary because the risk reward is kind of nuts on this. The second hit launches. So what you typically want to be doing as a Lars player, especially with this move, is kind of like doing this. Is just like in neutral, start poking your opponent with this. If you go low, while standing 4, if they start stepping you, then you go for while standing 2, like that. And eventually they will get annoyed and press buttons, and then you can throw that out. So it's more down to your timing as a player to make this button work. And yeah, I think the risk reward on this is nuts. Obviously it's 30 damage, but then if they get hit by the last hit, on counter hit, even if they're mashing, like bang, you get a crazy combo. So I think that's really, really good. But yeah, that's about it for Lars's neutral, in terms of what buttons you should be using, what buttons you should be playing around. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So when I said I was going to cover like the basics of like the 3 different play styles of the way that you can play Lars, I may actually include that in a different video. So this has just been like a how to play Lars in neutral, what buttons you should be using, and what buttons you should be playing around. But I feel like if I make a video based on how to be aggressive with Lars, or how to be passive, etc., I think that would be good as like a additional series to this, because the next video I'm going to be making is not an anti-Lars guide, but what not to do with Lars in neutral, if that makes sense. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to post your comments and your likes and everything down below. Let me know what you think. And yeah, I'm going to continue to make more videos on this. I think a lot of people do enjoy these type of videos where it's more like a tutorial based. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys.